Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Kyle Elfrink and Zay Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com.
Well, the fun may have ended, Christmas is over, but we are back on Fantasy Sports Daily, a place where the fun never ceases. Kyle Elfrink and Zay Flowers with you, and check this guy out. I mean, every day it's a new thing with you, Ray. We've brought Christmas onto the show. It appears that that's either some kind of outrageous overgrowth or that is a Christmas tree behind you, right?
That is a Christmas tree behind me, Kyle, yes. I actually, as a nerdy person who's doing this somewhat professionally, that's actually a green screen. I got a green screen behind me, so that's a photo of the tree upstairs, which is people might be wondering after hearing me describe my house why there's a view behind me, because the view's upstairs. But yeah, the green screen, I mean, look at this. It makes such a difference. I'm no longer blurry if I want to do something in the background, so that's a close-up of the tree from upstairs.
Was that a Christmas gift, the green screen, or have you had that?
It's a gift, yeah, and it's awesome. Actually... It's a pretty nice little one. It's one of the ones that's it's big, right? It's 7 feet long or whatever, but it's got a pull up and pull down, so you can it rolls into itself. In the old days, I had to set the one I had in the past. You had to set up the pole, flip it off. This is just
wow.
So it's pretty nice.
Fancy Zay Flowers. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with a door, a few concert posters, and this looming light. How do I do that? I can never figure it. There it is. There it is. There, that one right there.
You and I would be so bad as weather people too. We're not used to the direction. Yeah.
It's like Alien Autopsy whenever I'm doing the show here. You just see that looming light hanging above. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday, a great Christmas. We were obviously not here yesterday. We were busy throughout the weekend, obviously covering things at fantasyguru.com. We continued to put out basketball columns, NFL columns, all that stuff. For the most part, we're back to a regular work week for the next few days. Ray and I will be here today, tomorrow. Thursday, I will not be here. You and Rich Miletto, right, Ray? Coming up on Thursday?
That is the plan. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So Thursday, normal time and everything. And then I'll be back on Friday, and then we'll head into the weekend, which is another holiday because, hey, they just come hot and heavy as we get set for the New Year's. In regards to today, what do we have for you on Fantasy Sports Daily? Well, of course, we will take a look back at all of the Thursday action. Kind of a busy Thursday. Ray does not like his Christmas to be bothered, but Roger Goodell does not care about Ray's Christmas plans. So we had 3 games yesterday, and gotta say, surprising results. I think very surprising to see the Raiders beat up on the Chiefs. Kind of surprising to see the Ravens not only win, but dominate the San Francisco 49ers. And then the Eagles and Giants actually gave us a load of points, and the Giants made it a bit of a game yesterday. So we'll tackle all 3 games, kind of give you the rundown there, some fantasy takeaways, so on and so forth there. Of course, now we get set for championship week. And of course, we have to deal with injuries. So we'll tell you what's going on coming out of week 16 and looking ahead to week 17. Not looking good for guys like Jaylen Waddle, TJ Hockenson, guys that have been there all season. For you, the fantasy player, may not be there for the championship weekend. We'll talk some NBA with Justin Fensterman, sneak in a bit of baseball as well. And as always, Ray, we remind the folks out there, specials. The holidays may be over, but the deals are still with us on this Boxing Day.
You got that absolutely right, Kyle. Yeah, the promo code FSD20 is still actionable. That helps you with any product you want to sign up, DFS, seasonal wagering, any of the sports. You can use FSD20 for that. We also have a new one for football. We had the ho-ho one. Right now, that one's being removed and replaced by the following. You don't even need a promo code. It's just DFS football through the rest of the season, which includes through the Super Bowl, $50. So you can sign up at the website. That gets you, the last 2 weeks of the regular season. That gets you every week of the playoffs. $50. Maybe you've been with us and you love what we do. And you can add that. Maybe you haven't done DFS with us before, and you've always been kind of wondering what's it like. And, you want to keep playing this year. You're up for the challenge. Go to the website, fantasyguru.com, and sign up for the football package the rest of the way in DFS for $50.
And the reality of the situation, Ray, is for the most part, people who play season long, like 10% of them are still playing in week 17. In week 18, barely anybody plays. So you're right on the DFS outlook. Week 17, week 18. And DFS playoffs, man, the postseason is a load of fun with DFS. So take advantage of that special $50 for, what is that? Pretty well the next month and a half. You can get all the DFS coverage that you can handle. So check it out. over at fantasyguru.com. As always, you can send us any messages, questions, comments, whatever you got via Facebook, YouTube. Ray was telling me, I guess now Twitter questions are going to pop up. We're told that Ray's tech team is the one working on that. But I guess if you're on Twitter and following us, you can also send us questions.
Yeah, that's what the news, my tech team, I love that. I was told that's the case. We'll see if it's true, but I don't know what people are watching, if they're on youtube.com/@Elite Plus Network, if they're on Twitter, if they're watching later at the website. But we are being told that, yes, Twitter can now allow us to receive questions. We'll see if that's the case.
So type away to your heart's content if you'd like. Okay, Ray, let's dig into the triple header of Christmas action. Nothing is better than opening gifts while watching football, which I didn't do yet. Oh, I guess I did. Yeah, we had 2 gift openings, one in the morning and then one in the late afternoon. Unfortunately, it's not that cool to open gifts with the Giants and the Eagles. Like, whatever. I wasn't even paying attention to the game at that point. So we'll save that game for last. Let's talk about the other 2, Ray. And we'll start with last night. Huge showdown, a lot of anticipation. 49ers hosting the Ravens. I think it's very fair to say top 2 teams in the NFL. There may be some arguments for Philadelphia or whomever out there. But I think for the most part, the Ravens and the 49ers have performed as the best 2 teams. Ravens obviously get the win, Ray. It was a game at half. And then another Brock Purdy turnover kind of opened up the floodgates for Baltimore. 17 points, I think it was, in the third quarter. They go on to win by 2 touchdowns. And it's shocking to me, Ray, to see Brock Purdy with no touchdowns, 4 picks. Like, we have been so spoiled by excellence. And maybe it's not great every week, but Ray, nothing like this. This was one of those moments where if you were in week 16, you're like, okay, I got a cakewalk into the championship. All I need is, 14 points from Brock Purdy. You're probably feeling great about that. Total disaster for him, Ray. Not only did he not get a touchdown, not only did he have the 4 picks, but he left early. He didn't even play in the fourth quarter, which would have been perfect catch-up time. He was unable to play it against the Ravens last night.
Yeah, and Sal B in the chat hit on it, Kyle. You're Freudian slip there. Brock Purdy totally
Purdy turnover. That's what I was trying to say.
Totally was accurate. Whatever you meant was right. Yeah, that was rough. And I saw a lot of sources, talking, week 17. It's like, if you had Brock Purdy as your quarterback, I don't know if you're playing in week 17. I mean, that was a really terrible effort. Now the more than one guy for your fantasy squad and all that kind of stuff. But bottom line is that was a poor effort. There's no way to sugarcoat that. The Brock Purdy for MVP talk is obviously now down the toilet. That was rough. And as you noted, this is a couple times he's been beat up too. So there's a little concern here. I mean, the Niners are still fine. They're going to be in the playoffs, all that kind of stuff. No one wants to face the Niners in the playoffs. But an offer with 4 picks, terrible time for Brock Purdy to basically pull an Aiden O'Connell or whatever crappy quarterback you want to throw in there.
I was dealing with a buddy on Sunday morning. I'm not on Twitter, but Ray, people have my phone number, so they bother me with their fantasy football questions.
Right.
And he was deciding between Purdy and Trevor Lawrence. And I'm like, you got to go Purdy. He's just too good. I know the matchup. And I felt really good Sunday night when Trevor Lawrence didn't do a whole lot. And Trevor Lawrence only played 3 quarters. And I was like, I made the wrong decision, Ray. I think I did. And I've not heard from that friend yet this morning. But I guess I made the wrong decision. It was just out of nowhere. And I'm trying to think, Ray, has he even had a 3 interception game in his career with Brock Purdy? And again, the career is 20 games or something. Right. But I don't even think he's had 3 interceptions. So this one was totally out of nowhere. And full credit to the Ravens. What's wild about this game, as you kind of dig into the box score, Ray, is, Purdy was down, definitely. But the Niners still got 100 yards from McCaffrey, 100 yards from Kittle, 100 yards from Ayuk. They still put up some decent fantasy numbers. Meanwhile, on the other side, nobody went crazy for the Ravens. I guess the defense did, but Lamar Jackson was good. Gus Edwards didn't do much, but he got into the end zone. Zay Flowers was good, and that was like it. I mean, Isaiah Likely didn't have like a bust loose. So they won by 2 touchdowns, but for the fantasy player, it was kind of just ho-hum on Monday night in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Flowers had 9 catches and a touchdown, and here's Nelson Aguilar. Woo! So yeah, it's very weird because the game obviously was one-sided. The quarterback play was one-sided, but the overall fantasy play was one-sided in the other direction. You're totally right. And that's, this is what happens sometimes. You get excited, you see a score, and you go run to the box score to look at it, and you're like, oh crap, nothing happened. You see all these turnovers, and you're hoping greatness. No, it's pick sixes and interceptions and all these kind of things. I think, like you said, likely didn't kill you. He wasn't great, but he didn't kill you. Edwards got in the end zone. He was fine. I mean, Zay Flowers are people. I guess people are starting Beckham and Bateman. Like, I don't know. That's bad, right? So I can't say you should be disappointed with those guys because you really shouldn't be playing them anyway. But it was interesting to see the Niners have the fantasy play and the Ravens win the football game.
The Ravens, Ray, for a number of years now have been looking for a wide receiver. And they've tried free agency. They've tried the draft. Do you think they found it in Zay Flowers? He had 13 targets. That's a career/season high. He's a rookie. Is he showing it? I still wonder. I don't know. The numbers are good, especially for a rookie. Lamar Jackson, I guess this offense has scored a lot of points. I don't know that Lamar Jackson has really been a better quarterback. I know that last night they were talking on and on about this, and it doesn't matter who they're talking about. These announcers just fall all over themselves to worship quarterbacks. So, I know these guys are knowledgeable. They know what they're talking about, but it's just constant. It doesn't matter if it's Aiden O'Connell or Lamar Jackson. All these quarterbacks are great.
Josh Dobbs was going to win the MVP earlier this year.
Yeah, I mean, all the Booth guys just lose their mind. I think Jackson's been good. Jackson's been fine. I don't think he's taken any kind of leap. I mean, people look at look how strong the offense is. The offense isn't much different from what it's always been. It truly is not. There's been a lot made up, but it's kind of the same offense. The difference is Zay Flowers, Ray, because I don't know if they've had a consistent wide receiver. I guess Hollywood Brown for a moment, but then that dissipated very quickly, and he was traded to Arizona. Do you think Zay Flowers can be that guy?
I mean, it's tough. And I always have, and I would say this at the top, I have an issue. Maybe it's because I'm a tallest. I don't know, because I'm tall. He's 5'9", 180. There are just limits. There's not that many guys that size that are consistently getting 10 targets a week and giving you 790 and a touchdown. There's just not that many guys in the history of football that do that. There is also the fact that, he's a rookie, but he's had some issues with drops at times. He's dynamic. And I think with Lamar Jackson under center, it does open the field up, right? Because his ability to use his legs does present so many challenges for a defense that I think Zay Flowers might end up being kind of Deebo Samuel guy, right? Where it's a couple carries here, gets a rushing touchdown there. He's the lead pass catcher. He's not built like Samuel. He doesn't run routes like Samuel, but I think he fills that role in the Ravens offense. So, I mean, I would ideally love to see them get, someone 6'3", 200, to run on the other side from him, right? So then he would fit, I think, better in that mold. But I'm hesitant to say he's the wide receiver one for the next 8 years.
Yeah, I think he's still like a 2. I think they're still looking for the lead dog. And for the Ravens, it might be Mark Andrews. That's kind of been the excuse. But I don't know how much time Mark Andrews has left. It's interesting with Flowers. He has not gotten to 100 yards this season. I don't think he has topped his season best is 78 yards. He's had a few games in the 70s. So he hasn't even topped 80 yards.
Week 1 was 78 yards.
Yeah, and the first 3 weeks, Ray, he was 21 catches.
Yeah.
The first 3 weeks. In the 12 games since, it's 53 catches. So, again, last night was good and was kind of the moment for Zay Flowers on a big stage. But I kind of agree with you, Ray. He's much more of a 2 for any team than he is a 1. But it's still a good – I mean, he's going to end the rookie year, Ray, with over 80 catches, over 800 yards and probably 5 touchdowns. Not dynamic. I mean, it's not Odell Beckham's rookie year, but that's a win for the Baltimore Ravens in the first round.
Yeah, and I would draw the mental comparison of what the the Seahawks have. He's Tyler Lockett. They need DK Metcalf.
Yep.
That's what, and that, as we have seen over the years, can be a lethal combination of players. Zay Flowers has been wildly successful for a rookie. He's completely lived up to any expectations that were in the fantasy game. But as you pointed out, it's been kind of hit or miss, and that's just the nature of the position and nature of being a rookie.
Let's go to the first game of the day, and I think it's still probably the most surprising result. The Ravens are good, so it's not a shocker when they win, even on the road at San Francisco. But, Ray, the Raiders on the road at Kansas City, and it's fascinating with this game, Ray. It almost the entire game was decided in like a minute of play with the 2 defensive touchdowns for the Raiders. And, this is kind of like what I was just talking about with Baltimore and San Francisco, where you look at the box score And there isn't a whole lot there. Like you would think, man, if the Raiders are going to go to Kansas City and get a win, that must mean Aiden O'Connell carried it on. You know, he had 4 touchdowns in week 15. He had 9 completions in week 16. 9. Devontae Adams was nowhere to be found. Jacoby Myers didn't do anything. The tight ends weren't involved. Zamir White ended up with big numbers, but he was doing very little until the end of the game. I think he had like 64 yards on the 3 carries in the fourth quarter. So the Raiders are the Raiders. I don't know, the fantasy takeaway, quote unquote, who cares? The Kansas City side, Ray, is the so wild side here. There's a lot going on here. It is crazy to think Patrick Mahomes, I was looking this up, has one game of more than 21 fantasy points since week 3. 1? And that's a guy you average 24 or 25. He's got 1 game above 21 points in the last 3 months. That's stunning with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I wrote about this on Friday in my Coffin Corner piece over at fantasyguru.com. If you look the last 4 weeks, not yesterday, but the previous 4 games that the Chiefs have played, Rashee Rice in those 4 games had more catches than any Chiefs wide receiver had all season. And we talked, like, how many times can we talk about this? You're running Justin Watson out there as your number 2. No. Like, Justin Watson's a 5 or 6, and he's your 2. This team, we saw it again yesterday. What happened with one of the turnovers? We're scheming a funky play that we drew up on the playground. It's not even a real football play. You don't have your quarterback behind. It's just, so this team is not news, like a news flash. Oh my gosh. But this Chiefs team is in big trouble. And Jeff Mans has talked a lot about how they kind of expect, wait, hope for penalties to help him out. You and I have talked a lot about the fact that this offense just doesn't have any consistent pass catchers. They led the league heading into week 16 in drops. And this is showing you that even the greatest quarterback and arguably the greatest offensive coach in football right now don't have answers to this. That's a player personnel situation, Kyle.
Yeah, it's and again, I'm not blaming Mahomes. I will say in the last month, it's become very easy to dislike the Chiefs, which I've never felt until like the last month. But right now they go to the sidelines and the frustrations are totally getting to this offense.
Yeah. Like
Mahomes is yelling, Kelsey's slamming helmets down. I mean, you would think that they're a 5-win team with how they act like children, on the sidelines. And, with Kelsey, and he's a regular topic of conversation, whether you're a football fan or not, I guess, with Travis Kelsey. But it's kind of wild to look at this, Ray. And in effect, Kelsey's been a guy that down the field would hurt you. And over the middle, 15, 18, 22-yard catches. The yak, the ability to make that reception and then to pull away from a defender. Just haven't seen that from Travis Kelsey this year. And right now, Ray, almost all, I don't want to say all, and I'd love to see the numbers, but it feels like so many of his receptions are within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage now. There's always been that aspect of the screen pass, the quick hitter to Travis Kelsey, but it's been bookended by something down the field, over the defenders. And that exists occasionally, but overall, he is being used entirely different than he has in years past. And I almost go back to the preseason, Ray, when he suffered that knee injury. I don't know if he's ever been right since then. It just feels like his ability to get down the field and kind of separate from guys has totally disappeared this year.
And Gbro84 in the chat's commenting on it too. He it looks hurt every time he gets tackled. Like he's not 100%. I can give him that. I can also say that he's aging, right? That's part of this. Also, the defense has nothing to worry about. And let's be honest about this. When you don't have a real secondary option, when it's a rookie who didn't really emerge until the season was 2/3 over, what does the defense have to worry about? They can cover Kelsey completely differently. Not that they didn't focus on him in the past, but they don't have MVS. Come on, man. Come on. This is the receiving core is so bad. We single cover everyone. Who cares? Let's just cover Kelsey. And that, they keep him underneath. We've seen that Patrick Mahomes entered the year with a yards per attempt mark of over 8. This season, the mark is 6.9. A massive drop. Everything's underneath. They never do anything down the field. The only thing they do down the field is chuck it and hope for a penalty. This offense is just, it doesn't work. And my brother asked a really interesting question yesterday when we were talking to him. He said, hey, look, man, do you think this part of this with the Chiefs? Because my nephew we're trying to open gifts. My nephew's like, the Raiders are winning. I'm like, what do you mean the Raiders are winning? And he's like, do you think part of this is the fact that Mahomes makes $1 gazillion? And I'm like, I mean, they haven't spent any money on receivers. They don't have it. So there's a lot going on here, but this offense is a mess. And, they're going to make the playoffs and no one wants to face Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not the same team that anyone's had fear with in the past. I just don't think they'll be viewed that way.
I remember bringing this up with you way back in September, Ray, the fact that the Chiefs have chosen the route of, and every team, a good franchise with a good quarterback, they have to make this choice. And the Chiefs' choice has been, we're going to give Patrick Mahomes a ton of money, give Travis Kelce a ton of money, and then we're just going to find pieces at wide receiver. And to Rashee Rice's credit, here's another rookie doing well. I mean, Rashee Rice has progressed and has become a fantasy starter. Is he the lead dog at wide receiver? I'm not there. It's kind of like Zay Flowers, are you really there with Rashee Rice being your top dog? But they've gone so cheap at both running back and wide receiver, and it eventually can catch up to you. You're not going to hit every year to where I find a receiver on the cheap that can turn in 75 catches. That's kind of what they've been doing. You had peak Kelce, you had peak Mahomes. It's just kind of caught them this year. And another thing catching them is maybe the backfield, Ray. Pacheco's looked good when he's out there, but he was knocked out yesterday, concussion. For those who missed it, Jerick McKinnon's now on IR. So, Ray, we may be going into week 17 with Clyde Edwards-Helaire being a very critical piece to the puzzle for people in a fantasy championship.
Yeah, I was in Discord this morning for about 37 seconds and someone was already asking me a question about CEH. It's 7 in the morning. There's no one left. Like that, this is, we've seen it with CEH. We've seen it with this coach and this offense. We have seen him have success. We've seen him, go from the peak to the mountain, the top to the toilet. We've seen the whole journey, but now he's last man standing. I mean, and so I think the real issue you have with CH is he's not the player he was as a rookie. Even though they have to use him, there are many games, including yesterday, we saw another one where no one gets 14, 15 carries. Mm-hmm. That's not, the Chiefs they can't sustain drives long enough to get anyone 20 carries. I mean, it rarely happens. So where is CEH? He's in the conversation this week. We'll do all the breakdowns. We'll have all the answers with the rankings and the articles and everything at fantasyguru.com. We'll talk about it here on the show. He's in play, and that would be a scary place to be because it's an uncertain situation with CH in the backfield.
And the important thing to remember, what you said there, is even if you are the only guy available, you're not a 20-touch guy in this offense. They just don't do that with their running backs. So that's why Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even if we get to the week and obviously McKinnon's out, but let's say Pacheco's out, I can't sit here and say CEH is a top 12 guy or an RB1, even though we're going to say, wow, he's with the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. The matchup is fine against the Bengals, and he's the only guy. You usually add those things up for a running back, and you say, wow, he's knocking on the door of RB1, but you can't with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's much more of an RB2. And, hey, if you got money or if you can go to the waiver wire, you blow the budget to get the guy. I don't know how many people have been holding on to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but that will be a run on the waiver wire later tonight. And, again, smoke him if you got him. No use to carry the money forward, blow it out to get a guy like Edwards-Helaire. One last game was the middle game, Ray. Philadelphia and New York. And honestly, I did not have two eyes on this game. I was kind of following it. I know what Tommy DeVito's going to do. Okay, I don't need to.
Not much.
I know what the Giants are going to do. I mean, they're the Giants, and every week, a different wide receiver is going to step up. I guess the roulette table landed on Darius Slayton this week. Who cares? I mean, that's a team can't find receivers either. God loves Saquon Barkley. Just doing all the heavy lifting in this offense. Tyrod Taylor takes over in the second half. Offense looked a bit better. The Eagles, Ray, about the only thing I can say here is, another ho-hum kind of business-like effort. Jalen Hurts was fine. A.J. Brown was fine. A.J. Brown's kind of doing what he did last season where he got really quiet in November and December. He's just not scoring touchdowns the way he did. And last year he did the same exact thing. He got into the playoffs and exploded. So hopefully that happens again. But he hasn't got a touchdown. Let me look this up. He does not have a touchdown since November 5th. Or one touchdown.
Devonta Smith scored. Yeah.
Since November 5th. DeAndre Swift, a lot of work. That was a game where Philadelphia was kind of in control. We did see plenty of Gainwell. I don't know, Ray. That's kind of what I took away. Nothing that really stood out for anybody. Dallas Goedert's getting a lot of targets. That's good to see since he's returned. But other than that, you kind of look at this and say, how did they get to 58 points? Like, it's not a box score that screams almost 60 points scored.
Yeah, and the Eagles are 11-4. They beat an inferior opponent. Was it a great game? No. Were there huge statistical outputs? No. I don't know, Kyle. I mean, this is another team that, I think, I don't know how much of a correlation there is, but when Jalen Hurts hurt his knee, earlier in the season, things in the offense started getting a little wonky, and it's weird because he's scoring a rushing touchdown every week. Now, granted, it's someone's pushing his butt from 6 inches away from the goal line all the time. Like, this team has a remarkable ability to get down to the 2-yard line, right, every game. But the offense really, like you're saying, A.J. Brown's kind of, Jalen Hurts hasn't been great as a passer for the last month. They've got all these weapons and these pieces, and no one wants to face this team come the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But it's getting, that game shouldn't have been 33-25. Should have been 33-10, right? Like, that's got to be a little concerning if you're an Eagles fan.
Saquon Barkley, Ray, there's a good chance he's not with the Giants next year. We don't know where he's going to end up. He certainly wants money. I don't know that he's going to get it because, Ray, he's going to run into what every running back runs into where, hey, I'm not giving you 5 years. You can have 3. You can have 4. This offense is bad, and again, he's had to do all the work. If he gets in a different spot, or even if he stays with the Giants, right, and Daniel Jones is back, and they're doing, is he still an RB1 for you? And I maybe the stats don't say it, but I probably would still have him as an RB1 going into next season. I still give him that credit for, if he's healthy, he's good for 250 carries, probably good for 50 catches. Like, he's still, and we always have to couch these things by saying, if they're healthy. But even if they're healthy, everybody, I don't know how many guys are like legitimate threats for 300 touches. And wherever he's at next year, I think he's still going to be that kind of threat.
Yeah, I think that as of right now, with the uncertainty with the offense and what the Giants are going to look like next year if he's back, I think you kind of look at him and say he's in that Joe Mixon zone, right? Like you're talking about a guy with a lot of volume.
Above Mixon.
Well, but the stats don't say that. And that's, and again, it's really tough to judge this, especially in the case of Barkley, because the offense is terrible. And like you said, everyone knows they stack the box. They all know it's going to him. He's getting his 25 touches and it's going to be 96 yards. And that's, so it's really tough to say that, this is on Barkley, but the numbers are just kind of there. It's very workmanlike, which is why I do the comparison to Mixon. He's not going to get a huge contract. We can hope he gets in a better offense. If he gets in a better offense, then we'll get more excited because then the 3 catches might become 4. Mm-hmm. And the 4.0 yards a carry might become 4.8, right? And then all of a sudden we're back in business. But where he ends up in the offense he's a part of next year will, I think, determine, like you're saying, whether he's running back 12 or running back 6. He's probably going to be an RB1 on draft.
Yeah, that yards per carry number, it was 5 even his rookie year. Then it went to 4.6. Then he only had 2 games in 2020, so we'll scratch that. 3.7, 4.4, 4. They aren't elite numbers. The letdown here when I look at his line for Barkley, and he's at 253 touches. The letdown, Ray, is with these quarterback issues. It's lazy analysis, but we often think, hey, with a backup quarterback or a third string quarterback, it's the dump off. And a guy like Barkley, we've seen it before. I mean, this guy had 91 catches his rookie year. 91. Ray, 36 catches this year? That's probably the biggest issue I've got with Barkley is that in this offense with the quarterbacks he's dealing with, you feel like he should be over 50 by now, and he's sitting in the mid-30s.
Yeah, and Darren Waller's missed a bunch of time, right? Mm-hmm. So that was their lead pass catcher. He's out of the mix. You talked about Wendell Robinson's 4'3". Jalen Hyatt just runs sprints out there hoping to get bombs. Darius, Slayton's up and down. Shepard can't even get active on game day anymore. Hodgins, I mean, where is this? And again, we saw this at the end of last season, right? Hodgins established himself in the fantasy playoffs last year. He was catching 5 passes for 70 yards and a touchdown every week, right? Mm-hmm. We saw the Giants establish someone. They haven't established a receiver all year long, to your point. And when the inability to establish a single receiver on this team, the fact that Barkley's not more involved as a pass catcher, that's number one. It's on the quarterbacks. Number 2, it's on the play callers. I mean, it's a dual-headed thing here, but I don't know why. He hasn't got the ball more. I think that's he shouldn't be catching 3 passes a week. It should be 5. I don't know why it hasn't happened.
Eagles, Raiders, and Ravens. They emerged victorious on Christmas. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the action. Just know the NFL will not stop. It'll probably be with us next year, no matter what the calendar says. They're always going to give us some football on Christmas Day. In terms of a couple of other things emerging on Monday, and there wasn't a ton of news. It's Christmas, so you don't have a lot of practice reports or even the insiders breaking things down. But what we do know right now, and we'll get a lot of information later today, sounds like Trevor Lawrence and the shoulder is not a huge issue. You look back at that game against Tampa, they might have just removed him because it was a blowout, and Lawrence is really beat up at this juncture. But it sounds like he's going to be okay for Week 17. The early initial reports on Jordan Addison are positive with the Minnesota Vikings. He's dealing with an ankle, but they think he's going to be available this weekend. The news is not so good, Ray, for his teammate TJ Hockenson, nor for Jaylen Waddle. Both of these guys who are consistent starters every single week. Hockenson's been a stud this year. Waddle's been very good. Both these guys, as of this moment, Ray, probably more out than in. I mean, we're hearing high ankle sprain with Waddle, and we're hearing a fairly severe knee injury with TJ Hockenson.
Yeah, just so the listeners know, I'll share my pain in the listener league, which I killed all year long. I went in yesterday with Chase on the bench, with Pittman on the bench, and with TJ Hockenson hurt. So my three top receivers, who are three of the top 15 receivers in football this year, got me 9.8 points this week. Yes. Ouch. So I feel your pain. But yeah, it sounds like the pain that Hockenson has is going to be extended here. And there's real concerns, like you said. His regular season seems to be almost certainly over. There are options at tight end that are likely to be on your waiver wire if you lost Hockenson and you're still playing. Obviously not to that level. But we'll have our fingers crossed, but it doesn't sound like that dream is going to be a reality. And Waddle, we're hearing high ankle sprain. If that's the case, his regular season's likely over too. So those are two pieces of people that clearly could still be playing in the fantasy game that they might have to go in a different direction in Week 7.
And Miami, even if it's not necessarily a full-blown high ankle sprain, does Miami push Jaylen Waddle? They didn't do it with Tyreek Hill a couple of weeks ago. Yep. Their team obviously aiming for the playoffs, the postseason, to do some damage in January. So there is a bit of this relaxation of, okay, maybe he could play if it were the divisional playoffs. But in Week 17, I don't know if that's going to happen. And again, there will be more injuries that come out today, but nothing going on yesterday. So we don't have much of a practice report or any kind of follow-up. But the news was not good for Hockenson and Waddle. And we will certainly have more updates and more names to probably deal with coming up on Wednesday's edition of Fantasy Sports Daily. We will leave the football for a few seconds, actually for many seconds, because we want to spend our remaining seconds with our good friend Justin Fensterman, who is coming off his own Christmas holiday. I don't know how Justin did it yesterday. He's a big football guy, big basketball guy, crazy Christmas day of basketball, 3 games of football, but here he is, waking up with us on December 26th. Happy Kwanzaa to you, Justin. And it's great to have you with us. How are things going, buddy?
Oh, things are going well, guys. Thank you so much for having me back. And it was crazy. Did a little radio action with football. Did, of course, the DFS write-up for NBA. It never ends. And I loved all of the Discord activity in the DFS NBA chat throughout the day. I thought it was going to be a ghost town. People were still playing, and that's what we say. Winners win. No lunch breaks.
Yeah, look at that. Spending your Christmas with Justin Fensterman in Discord. That's what the holidays are made of.
That's called getting a lump of coal in your stocking right there.
Yeah. You reached out to me this morning before I could even figure out what we were wanting to talk about. You said, Kyle, I've got to talk about NBA wagering and gambling. What's got you fired up? What's pissing you off, or what's the concern here?
I'll say this. So over the last week and a half, or at least the last week, NBA wagering has not been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of misses. And with that, I know that there is frustration, of course. And everyone, by the way, in the Elite Mafia, being very patient. They know how it goes. There's a lot that I look for in these bets. And I brought this up to you guys before. I go inside the numbers, look at the DVP, defense first position. I look at pace. I look at previous matchup. When I look at a certain position that I'm trying to exploit, I look at their past 5 games to see who was in, who was out, who the opposition was, and then I make the bets. There's a lot that goes into it. And there's nobody that's more frustrated, even if it's a night where I hit 3 bets and I miss 1. There's nobody who's a tougher critic on that kind of stuff than me. I want to hit every bet. It's not going to happen. And I was on a cold streak early on in the season, ended that, got hot. Now I'm on one again. That's not going to stop me, though. That's at the end of the day. I can miss and miss. And these guys over here who have known me throughout most of my career, in fact, pretty much all of it, know that if I get punched in the face the next morning, I'm showing up with an ice pack and the welt the size of a bowling ball, and I'm going to be right back there knocking at the door. I take this content very seriously. I'm frustrated. But the guys, the one thing I do want to say, and I feel that every so often we have to bring this up, the one thing I can't control is how much we invest in these bets. Full disclosure, my budget, I bet $5, $10 max.
This guy can't even afford a shirt with sleeves.
Exactly. That's the truth. So with that, when you can't afford shirts with sleeves, you have to go back into your 18 to 23-year-old closet and wear NBA jerseys on these professional spots. Then, for me, my budget, $5 to $10. That's all I bet. And that's all that I bet within my budget because that's what it's about. I'm a wagerer. I try not to be a gambler. It's two different things to me. That's one area that I can't control. That's one area where the guilt that I have of missing these bets ends. Because when I see people, I've lost this much money over the last week, bet less. It's very easy. It's very easy. You don't have to bet $100 per bet. I don't advise that. That's why I don't list just 9 bets that I think are okay. I'd rather give you guys 2 to 3 bets that are properly researched to the extent that I can. But with these bets, the one thing I can't control, I can predict shot volume. I can't predict whether or not the player is going to actually hit those shots. It stinks. We've been getting hooked on the number a lot, but where the guilt ends for me, and again, NBA Betting Discord couldn't be nicer about it. They understand how this flows. It's not like football. We have action every single night on to the next day. But the one area that I advise is don't bet beyond your means. If we're cold right now, bet $5 to $10. Take advantage of a free bet or a promotion that you see on one of these sites. Because when I see things like I've lost X number of dollars over the last week, that's where the guilt ends for me. You losing, that's where it ends. How much you lost, that's a different story. I bet $5 to $10 even if I'm on fire. That's how I am, and I got to be fully honest, and I appreciate you guys giving me the platform to just say that, and I'll end it by saying this. We will bounce back. We're going to work hard at it. We're going to find those players like we did and exploit them for matchup after matchup until the books move them up. This is just a stutter step, and I'm ready to start winning.
Woo! Is that a Jack Sikma jersey, by the way?
No, it's a Ray Allen. It's a Gary Payton jersey, actually. What I try to do is based on questions and topics that you guys are going to ask me. I try to match the jersey. Now, you're probably thinking, Fensty, you're an idiot. I'll stop it right there. But I'll say I'm wearing a Seattle Supersonics jersey, a non-existent team. The Oklahoma City Thunder, which I know we're going to talk about, the lineage is from the Seattle Supersonics.
There you
Still wish it was Jack Sikma. That's just
me too sometimes. Maybe I'll get you
Dale Ellis. Dale Ellis would have been a good one.
Maybe that would have been good. Race. Number 3, right?
Yes.
All right, Justin. Let's talk about your team. We'll come back to the
Sorry for the heavy stuff, guys. I needed to get that off my chest.
Well, neither Ray and I can bet in our home state. So
yeah.
We don't want to.
And that's why I can't just do alt line parlays either, because people in Discord tell me we can't get those lines. So I want to try to appease everybody and make it appealing for everyone. So alt line parlays, which is the way to go for those that can bet in those states. And for those that can't, I'll still put up straight up props for us.
Well, let's talk a little bit about let's be positive. I think it's a positive question, Justin, about the Knicks. We talk a lot about the Sixers and the Celtics and the Bucks. Well, the Knicks beat the Bucks. They're starting to play some pretty good basketball. The record's starting to reflect that. Where are we at with the Knicks? What are you seeing?
There's a problem, Ray, and that's they don't have a big tree like you in the middle to prevent teams from getting inside on them, because Mitchell Robinson is likely missing the rest of the season after having ankle surgery. They just had to sign Taj Gibson. That's very scary. Jericho Sims, one of their other backups, also dealing with an ankle injury, a small one, but he's been out of the lineup. So Taj Gibson has actually had to play basketball. And it's very scary when you think about that. How are they going to be able to stop Joel Embiid? How are they going to be able to stop Kristaps Porzingis? The answer, they're not. Giannis, they're not really going to stop him. Julius Randle has done a good enough job, but you don't want Julius Randle to have to put that kind of defensive pressure as much as he puts on the pressure on himself on offense. Why? Because at the end of the day, he'll wear down, and then you won't have any power in that post. So with the Knicks, it was a great win. It was great to see. Milwaukee has beaten them all season. This was their fourth matchup of the year. They played 2 days before, and the Bucks handled them. And the Knicks did an excellent job of winning that game. And Jalen Brunson is a stud, and Damian Lillard can't play defense. I worry about them, though, against teams like the Sixers, the Celtics, the Bucks. They need to trade for size. And I've went into the market, and it seems like the only available options that they can get without having to trade some of their core, Utah, Omer Yurtseven, a guy that can just clog up the middle, and that's it. I think he would fit perfectly there. Someone who's not as good of a defender, but still a big body. The Bulls, who are looking to sell pieces for probably picks. The Bulls have Andre Drummond. The Knicks just need a big guy to get up the middle and to be able to clean up the garbage and hit putbacks and everything like that. Drummond can do that even though he plays poor defense. So they can't keep rolling out Isaiah Hartenstein and Jericho Sims. They need more depth if they're going to be able to compete.
Justin, you'd be proud of me. Yesterday on Christmas Day, my mom and I watched the last 5 minutes of the Warriors game.
There you go.
We did. And well, I'd like to ask you why Steph Curry is chucking up left-handed three-pointers with 20 seconds left in the game.
Because he's accomplished everything else, Ray. It's time to work on other stuff.
I mean, he hit the rim at least, but what the hell is he doing? Let's talk about the other side of things in that game. It's the Nuggets, and they're on a hot streak right now, Justin. 8 of the last 10. They've got Jokic and Murray, those two guys, had great games yesterday again. We were laughing at Jokic because it's like that guy's less muscle than I do, and he can't jump, yet he's everywhere. He's a great basketball player. Talk to us a little bit more about the Denver situation and, how good is this team?
Well, it's funny you say that about Jokic because Jokic was hit very early on with COVID. And he got it bad. This was when the pandemic first started. And he dropped like 30 pounds while he was sick. The guy looked like he was like just a regular Joe Schmo like us. It's like, what's this? Who is this guy at this point? What he does is just excellent. Great handles, great speed and agility, good decision-making with the ball. Sometimes I wonder if he's too much out of the paint. He's hanging at the elbow, but he can hit shots from there. But here's the thing with the Nuggets, and I think that they're going to be competing for that championship again. What we're seeing in the West right now, Minnesota's been great. I think they could beat Minnesota. Oklahoma City has nothing, like we were just talking about with the Knicks. As much as I like Chet Holmgren on offense, defensively in the low block, they get very exposed, and I don't think they're going to be able to take Jokic out or really limit him at all. So I think the Nuggets are going to be right there. But keys to this team, and especially from the fantasy angle too, Michael Porter Jr. has been great. He's been crashing the boards. He's had a nice stretch. Aaron Gordon, also they're a nice 1-2 punch. Porter likes to stay more at the arc, try to get high percentage shots from downtown. Gordon will do more of the dirty stuff. He'll do more of the dirty work. He'll hang in the post, which is how it's supposed to be. Because when I see guys like him and Tobias Harris of the Sixers just staying there at the arc the entire time, when both have very good power driving ability, it irks me. And seeing both of these guys drive at times, especially Gordon, has made him a fantasy asset, has made him a profitable prop bet at times, his points plus rebounds as well, which we've exploited. And that's why, again, this team, even though it's not flashy depth, they've got Murray, they got Jokic, like you said, there are other pieces. And even Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, very solid defender. They just have a very nice puzzle, and they're going to be able to compete. But their forwards being solid fantasy assets as well, and especially for DFS because they're not priced up too much.
Talking some hoops with Justin Fensterman. We do it every Tuesday here on Fantasy Sports Daily. From Jokic to Doncic. 50 points last night for Luka. Dallas gets a win against the Suns. And I think Kyrie Irving's missed like the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
And two-part question. A, what's the latest on Irving? When are we going to see this guy? Number two, with Luka, for a fantasy owner who has Doncic, is he better without Irving? Like, should a Luka owner be sitting there saying, I want Irving out for the next month? So
no, if I'm a Luka fan, I'm hoping that Luka and Kyrie get into some kind of fight where Kyrie demands a trade off the team. Because when Kyrie's on, and it's kind of, we've seen this with guards being successful, but with what you need from Luka and what he's capable of, they don't need Kyrie Irving. It never made sense him being there. Luka, yes, we've seen it with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, and they've made it work. But Luka's better, more ball dominant than even both of those guys, and can do more as well than Trae Young, in my opinion. and they don't need Kyrie Irving. So I'm hoping Kyrie Irving stays out if I'm a Luka guy as much as possible, especially in DFS, because Luka's price point is still going to be in that 10 plus area. So because of that, I want Kyrie Irving out if I'm going to invest in this guy, because he's going to take some of that usage away. But unfortunately, with this situation, we're still game by game with him. We don't have a timetable. We're literally every single time the Mavs are on the docket, we're wondering if Kyrie is going to play or not. And he's been out for like 9 straight games. So to answer your question, Luka Doncic, very impressive. Just that production is not going to be able to sustain once Kyrie returns.
Justin, the Atlanta Hawks have a great duo in the backcourt scoring-wise, and there's some exciting pieces there in the fantasy space. But overall, this team is not performing well. What's been the issue there for the Hawks? Why can't they get going beyond a couple of guys?
Once you pass that arc, Ray, you could score on them. That's the problem. Their forwards play no defense. I've never, ever seen a team that defends the perimeter, because they can defend the perimeter, Atlanta. But once you get past that perimeter, once you get inside that arc, there's no more defense. Clint Capella isn't doing anything, and he's not that quick. Onyeka Okongwu, I thought was going to be not only getting more minutes, but being really relied on more, essentially marking the end of Capella there, because he's the younger player and he can do what Capella could do. He's not making that impact. Saddiq Bey not making that impact. Johnson's been hurt, Jalen Johnson. So that's another factor into this and piece that they need. Saddiq Bey and DeAndre Hunter, none of them play defense. Once you get inside, it's like a layup line. And so that's why, again, when we look at props and stuff, for instance, if I have a skilled forward, like if I have someone from the Clippers, let's just say, like a Kawhi, hell yeah, I'm going to exploit that matchup right there. They just don't play any defense. You watch this team for 5 minutes and you'll be able to tell everything about them, forwards and backwards. Their forwards do not do anything to stop the driving on the defensive end. And it's scary, and it's something they have to address. And I bet you they're not even seeing it, because there have been 0 improvements.
Since you went to the effort, Justin, of wearing this Sonics uniform, which, as you noted, they then became the Oklahoma City Thunder, I must ask you, tonight, Minnesota against OKC. This, by the way, folks, number 1 in the West, Minnesota. Number 3 in the West, Oklahoma City. We know about the stars, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, guys, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We know. Give me an underrated fantasy guy from each of these 2 teams that has helped them maintain the success this year.
So I'll give you an underrated guy. And you know what? Because you guys know me, I'm an overachiever. I'll also give you a player that could still be on your waiver wires as well for the season-long crowd out there. Also for DFS value too. Try to appease all audiences here. I'd say from the Thunder side of it, it has to be Jalen Williams. I just mentioned that Oklahoma City's not great on the low block in the center versus center, but power forward-wise, that's a different story. This guy is good. This guy is exactly what Atlanta needs right now, but they don't have. He's an excellent on-the-ball defender, knows how to close down the lane, knows how to switch properly, so there's not 2 open players instead of 1 when you're doing a defensive switch. It's incredible seeing the growth from this guy. He's not out there on waivers, but Lou Dort is. And this guy's averaging 11 and 4, and he'll take a lot of shots from long range, and he'll get the minutes as well, which means that volume is going to be there for him when he is on that court. He's a secondary scorer for this team. And anytime you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Josh Giddey on the drive, they kick it back out. He's going to be, because the defense will automatically collapse on both of them once they hit the lane. He'll be wide open to be able to shoot the 3 ball. So he could still be out there. The Minnesota side, Mike Conley. Give the old man vet some props right here. I mean, this guy was the secondary option of Greg Oden when they were coming out of college at Ohio State. It was all about Greg Oden, but Mike Conley was just the other guy. And Mike Conley, with the career he had, has been great, and he has been excellent for Minnesota. Like you said, Towns, Edwards, Rudy Gobert, this guy has been reliable. But somebody else who starts, who also has been reliable, maybe he's still out there, Jaden McDaniels, another underrated defender as a forward who gets a lot of minutes, might need a little bit more on the volume side when it comes to shots, but we have seen him produce steals as well. I like to look for guys that can at least give you a little bit of production in multiple categories. So we know the scoring is there. He's a good defender, so the steals will be there, and you'll get a little bit of love on the rebounding side.
It was a busy Christmas. It's a busy night in the NBA tonight. I know Justin and his crew will have the DFS write-up, the cheat sheet, all of that, hanging out in Discord. Quickly, we opened with wagering, so I want to end with wagering. Detroit, the Pistons, if they lose tonight, taking on Brooklyn, they will set an NBA record with 27 straight losses, which is hard to even fathom. I opened up the sports book this morning, Justin, thinking that the Pistons would be like a 15-point dog or something. They are only a 6.5-point dog to the Brooklyn Nets. And I think if you take them straight up, which I would think, hey, if you're about to lose your 27th straight game, to get a win should be like plus 500, but it's plus 205. I'm going to give you a chance here. You may not like either of these bets. What would you do? Would you just stay away from this game and laugh at the Pistons, or do you think there's an edge to be gained there?
I mean, I'd like to normally say there's an edge because, I mean, we talk about what teams' forwards don't defend. Actually, the Nets' forwards are good defenders, but they've been able to get beaten. And that's the one thing there. The problem with Detroit, I mean, with the rotations that they've had, they don't play any defense at all. Thought that Asar Thompson was going to be that guy. So when it comes to betting this team at this point, I mean, can they beat the Nets? Are the Nets the toughest matchup in the world? No, but the Nets also slow down that pace. So I'd rather almost have a little bit of a pace boost, thinking they get more possessions to produce. If, let's say, their offense is totally on fire. With the Nets, it's not going to be so much. They play a little bit slower. So for me, I'm staying away from that matchup as a whole.
Good thing that the Lions are good this year, so people can just care about the Lions.
People want them to sell the team, and that's it's sad. It's just this early in the season to see what this team has become. It's just sad, and we've seen Detroit at some very low lows throughout their history.
Yeah, certainly going through one now. Justin, awesome. We kept you a little longer than usual. Didn't want you to get a day off or anything, so we wanted to put you to work. Thank you for jumping on board, and we'll talk next week, okay?
Guys, thank you so much again for having me. And, hey, I charge for the overtime, Kyle, so I'll invoice you.
Yeah, well, Ray handles all paychecks and HR.
So I'm not getting anything out of this.
Yeah.
The free interview.
Talk to Ray's team.
Yeah.
We say. Justin Fensterman there, his final visit, I guess you would suppose, in 2023. Who knows? Maybe he'll shock and awe us at some point later in the week, but we'll talk to him next Tuesday. Ray, you and I are pretty well to the end of the road here on a Tuesday. Been fun. Fantasy Sports Daily. Quick baseball note, and like most sports, it goes quiet, when you get to this point on the calendar. But we did have a signing, Mitch Garver. Going to Seattle, 2 years, $24 million. Garver is not a world beater, but I know, Ray, you've had a soft spot in your heart for Mitch Garver when you get a chance, right?
I have, absolutely. Yeah. And he's been very effective. There's been injuries and he's in and out of the lineup a lot. But if you look at his performance the last 2 years, he's got 29 home runs and right around 500 at bats. He's a legit power hitter. Now, the move to Seattle is not good for that, unfortunately. That's one of the most difficult parks in baseball to go deep in. The benefit for Garver is that he should see a lot of time at DH with the way the roster is currently constructed, right? So that ideally would keep him in the lineup more frequently, let his body stay healthy. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, he's likely to he'll get 500 plate appearances if he's healthy. They'll give it to him. We'll have to see if he can stay healthy long enough to get him.
Okay. Health, Mitch Garver, they usually don't go together, though. Yeah. 380 plate appearances. I'm putting them down for that right now. Seattle certainly needs the power. They'll see if they can get it from Mitch Garver. Okay, that'll do it for us today. Good to be back in the saddle. Good to be talking again, having some fun. Chat room. Thanks to everybody who jumped in and gave us another shot because we weren't here yesterday. Hopefully there was nobody out there screaming at their computer on Christmas morning that Ray and I were not here. I don't think so. Nobody tweeted you yesterday, Ray, to, just rake you over the coals for not doing a show on Christmas morning, did they?
Not yesterday, but someone did let me know that I didn't answer their question in Discord. So there's still
Good.
people out there that have complaints, Kyle. You can't take one day off out of 365.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Hey, they love you, Ray. They love you. It's better to be loved than unwanted. You are loved, Ray Flowers. Tomorrow we'll get back going at 11 a.m. Eastern. Probably have a lot of injury stuff to run through. We'll take our first look at the Week 17 games. Good luck to everybody who is maybe going to the waiver wire, trying to pick up Clyde Edwards-Helaire or anybody else. Again, Jaylen Waddle probably going to be out. TJ Hockenson probably going to be out. So if you're looking at the waiver wire, those are two guys that if you own them, if you've been counting on them, more than likely you will not have them in Week 17. So plan accordingly. Ray, have a great rest of your Tuesday and see you on Wednesday. Okay.
Looking forward to it, Kyle.
He is the one and only Zay Flowers. I am Kyle Elfrink. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, right here and only here, courtesy of fantasyguru.com.